Welcome back to the Gruber Morning Show. I'm Pete Gruber.
I'm Mark Schaffner. Good morning and welcome.
And we have a beautiful scenery shot behind us on that green screen. And this is Merano, Italy, which is in northern Italy, near Bolzano. It's a favorite vacation spot for Swiss, French, Germans, Austrians. Anything in the Alps there is gorgeous like this. And initially the social media team said, hey, there are two people over there. Do you want us to Photoshop them out? I said, no, it's my wife. She'd be mad. My wife and my sister-in-law are standing behind Mark, actually. And there's a little bed and breakfast there in the Alps that we stay with when we go to visit my brother. And just a beautiful area of the world. Looks like we've got a TikTok question.
Yes, Bert is asking us, good morning, Bert. Do we have a medical eye condition?
Well, it's not medical, but we have a huge reveal planned. And I think most of the audience continues to come back in anticipation of that reveal taking place someday. We will actually discuss why we're wearing sunglasses.
Yes, for my part, I mean, other than the fact that I'm getting old enough that it's not quite as easy to read as it used to be. No medical eye conditions.
So one of the first news items we have is, I was surprised to see that Automobili Pininfarina is making an automobile called the Battista. And the reason I'm familiar with that long Italian name is I had a Ferrari for 23 years, and on the sides of my 308 were two badges that said Pininfarina. When I first got it, I thought, or I asked, what is this? And they said, well, that's the designer that is doing the design and for Ferrari. And of course, those Italian cars are just beautiful. They design with the soul, with the heart, the curves, yes, the colors, all of it. The Germans, on the other hand, are more technically oriented, the precision engineering. That's why Porsches look the way they do. Mm-hmm. Did I just say that? Sorry for the Porsche fans out there. But anyway, so they made this car now. They're making cars. They're not just building or they're not just designing vehicles for a number of manufacturers, by the way. But they built this EV Battista car, and it has now secured its position as the world's fastest accelerating production car by completing a quarter mile in 8.55 seconds. They call this a stunning achievement by Battista, and it is 100% electric vehicle, so it is now the fastest electric vehicle. And of course, that will change. I mean, Tesla's going to come out with a Model S something, and which may beat this, but in the meantime, it enjoys that. The racetrack that this was raced on, by the way, was in India, and it was, let me see if I can get the name of it here. There it is, the Natrax test facility in India. And it was also the first attempt like this being done in India. The Battista produces over 1,900 horsepower, and the power is distributed across four wheels via four motors in a unique, sophisticated, they call it, torque vectoring system tuned by Automobili Pininfarina's engineers. So 1.86 seconds, 0-100, 0-60, which is what we're more comfortable with here in the US, is 1.79 seconds. So it looks like Tesla's got another world record that they need to target for that second generation Roadster. They began production of this vehicle in 2022 at the Atelier facility in Italy, and they will be starting deliveries to customers worldwide. So for those of you, and I don't have a cost here, but I would imagine this is going to be an expensive car.
I would definitely imagine it. As far as the engineering goes, they are actually headquartered in Munich. So we've got German engineers and Italian designers working together to build the next supercar, in my opinion. This car comes with about 310 miles of range, and it has a 120 kilowatt battery. Of the 150 cars that they're hand building to start with, over a third of them were reserved before they even had the first car off the production line.
Amazing. It's the strength of their reputation. Guys, we have a picture to pop up for this car. Can we put up the Battista? And what you just said was it's got a 120 kW battery pack?
Yes, it has a 120 kilowatt battery pack.
When you see this car, can you imagine where they squeezed that battery into that sports car? That is amazing. The density on that battery must be over the top.
I'm wondering if they put the battery of that sports car down underneath, similar to the Model S, to give it a super low center of gravity and be able to do the unreal acceleration and speeds.
Yeah. It's got the Italian flag on the hood, and it sure looks like a Ferrari from a distance, doesn't it?
It sure does.
Beautiful car. I think it's great that these manufacturers are jumping on the bandwagon and creating beautiful automotive pieces of art like this.
You know, I think it's only a matter of time before we see more and more of the supercars come out. You know that Bugatti is not going to just sit by and watch for all of these electric vehicles again and again and again to break the records that their Chiron or some of their other $1 million plus sports cars have had in the past.
Later on in the in the podcast, we're going to show you a boat that actually is breaking records as well. I mean, we're talking about on the water, mind you.
My goodness.
But in the meantime, another news item that I came across is ABC News. The headline is, "Broken Machines, Long Waits, the Reality of Charging Electric Vehicles." Well, the response to that, and this was on Facebook, a number of people chimed in and said, the reality of charging non-Teslas. Teslas generally don't have any problems. I have never been to this particular Tesla owner says, I've never been to a Tesla supercharger location that didn't work. And you know, although you'll get wait lines at times, peak hours perhaps, generally the equipment works fairly well. You know, occasionally you'll come up to a bunch of stalls, 20, 30, 50, 100 of them in the really populated areas in California, and there might be one or two that have a bag over the top telling you that it's due for service or it needs something. But in essence, the charging systems that Tesla has are quite reliable. So yeah, provide us your questions. We entertain them. Let us know where you're from, where you're coming in from, and your name, and we will answer them as they stream in. So ABC News, I guess the bottom line is you should have polled some Tesla owners. The other part of this is those of us that own Teslas, you generally don't have to go to outside chargers unless you're traveling. Most of us, probably all of us, have a home charging system, and when you get home at night, you simply plug it in, and by morning you've got a full tank of gas every time.
You know, whether it's Ford that offers their charging station install as part of the price of the vehicle on their Ford Lightning, the upper ends of that, or people just getting the charging systems, the home charger is where it's at for people. Charging at home, being able to travel to and from work. One notable comment, even inside the ABC article, was from John Volker, who's editor for Green Car Reports. And he says that the majority of people only use public charging 2 to 3 times a year. So the public charger availability isn't necessarily the huge issue that the press is making it out to be. Yeah, there is definitely an issue. There are some brands of public chargers that have a poorer reputation than others. But public electric charging, by and large, seems to be improving fairly quickly. I've heard it likened to a toddler cutting its teeth. 2 years ago, there was virtually no extra public charging out there. It was very limited. Today, it's getting better. It's not there yet. There's a lot of room for improvement. In another 5 years, public charging is likely to be as ubiquitous as gas stations.
You know, I was talking to a Tesla Roadster owner yesterday, and he got one of the first 2008 Roadsters. He also owned the first building that Tesla went into on Bing Street.
Oh.
And so he goes way back with Tesla, but he says, you know, I'm back from the days when there was no public charging. In order to travel with my Tesla Roadster, I had to go to KOA campgrounds to get my charge. This is reminiscent of the T0, which came out in 1997, which actually has a trailer hitch on the back, not to pull a boat, but it used to pull a Honda generator so that when you ran out of fuel and you only got 80 miles with a T0, you were able to recharge or continue to run to get to your destination.
On TikTok, BAK570PA asks a question for us. He says, where does the electricity come from to charge?
Well, a variety of sources, of course, are generating electricity, from hydroelectric to wind to solar to coal-burning plants, even oil-burning plants, natural gas. So the utilities provide power, but in your home, it's a fair question. The homes were not built for EVs. You typically get a 200 amp panel at your house. Now you have to service your clothing dryer, which is 240 volts, your cooking ranges, your hot water heater. These are all real power hogs at 240 volts. And then what you have left is for lights and outlets and 120 volt circuits. The problem is that 200 amps is quickly eaten up by the general appliances in the home. Then you come along with an EV and you need 70 amps or 80 amps suddenly for your level 2 charger. So a lot of these homes now are needing to be retrofitted, and it's not cheap. It's expensive to change the service entrance to your home. And the other thing that we talked about in an earlier podcast, because of the proliferation of EVs now, there's a shortage of electricians. That's a couple of reasons.
Yes.
Because of the increase in demand for power. But secondly, few people are going into that as a trade anymore. White collar professions are generally what people are gravitating towards. So we've got a few challenges to face.
Definitely do. What I've seen in a lot of older homes is that your laundry room, or the area where your clothes dryer is at, is either near or sometimes in the garage. And there are some really good solutions where manufacturers will make effectively a splitter that allows you to have your dryer plugged into one side of your outlet and an EV charger plugged into the other side of the outlet. NeoCharge makes a particularly good one. I have one of those at my house, in fact. For newer homes, they do typically have a little bit larger service in. Now, here in Phoenix, old in Phoenix is what, 1985?
Yeah.
I know in many parts of the country, new could be considered 1985. So there are definitely service issues in older neighborhoods, not kind of unlike what we've seen in Phoenix. But there are a lot of places or a lot of different types of solutions that you can do for charging. You even mentioned the KOA campground. That's actually quite humorous, because any RV campground is going to have 60 or 70 50 amp 240 volt service plugs for RVs, and those work ideally as EV chargers as well.
Perfect. We've got a TikTok question from Hot Rail Rose. Pete, have you ordered the new generation Roadster? If so, did you order the Founder Series? No. And the customer I was telling you about, by the way, who has this 2008 Roadster and owned the building that the first building that Tesla went into, he does have a reservation for the Collector Series new Tesla Roadster, which he gave them $250,000 for about 4 or 5 years ago or so. He was kind of moaning and complaining a bit, saying, that was an interest-free loan to Tesla. And I always think now, what could I have done with $250,000 4 or 5 years ago if I had invested that?
Well, and if he had invested it in Tesla 4 or 5 years ago, he could have given them the $250,000 now and walked home with another $500,000.
The stock would have been a better bet, without a doubt. So no, I did not order my new one. And as we continue to see, the performance of these EVs continues to increase while Tesla is waiting to get their car out there. And of course, we don't know what the final performance specs on their car is going to be, this new Roadster, but I'm sure it'll be very impressive. YouTube EV or YouTube Salvage EV says, yeah, I totally use home charging. It's much more, it's seamless, and your trips to the gas station have completely stopped.
Oh, absolutely. I drive 2 electric vehicles. For people who have tuned in the past, I have a Volvo as well as a Model S. And I am about 99% home charging. The only time I have needed to use public charging, I've had a very easy time finding it as well.
Mm-hmm. TikTok, back 570 PA. How much is a new battery? We're assuming for a Tesla Model S or so. $22,000 for the new battery. If it's a Tesla Roadster, it's $30,000 plus tax. Now, there are less expensive EV batteries available, the Chevy Volt, for example, the Ford Fusion. But these are the larger batteries that will get you close to 300 miles or 300 miles plus range. It looks like YouTube, Nalvers53. How are you? Welcome back. By the way, I did figure out that your name is Revlon spelled backwards. And we actually have in our CRM, our database.
Yeah.
We used to do mail merge when we would send out emails, so it would pick the name that customer's owned by here internally into the email. Well, we had unassigned records, and you really didn't want unassigned popping up in the emails, right? As owned by. So we came up with a Drucker Nepo name.
Right.
Which is open record spelled backwards. And in the 30 years that we've used that, there was only one person that ever figured that out, and it was a paralegal here locally in Phoenix, and she says, I know what you're doing. But I think the best one we had was, and it was kind of sad, it was somebody in Czechoslovakia that was looking for his long-lost brother, and he thought that was that he was with us here in town, Drucker Nepo.
Oh my goodness.
So we had to let him down gently. So anyway, what YouTube Nalvers53 says, in January, a Tesla plunged nearly 300 feet off a cliff in California. The occupant survived, but the Tesla was destroyed. I don't know if you guys saw pictures of it, but it literally plunged down into into rocks where the water was. And the fact that they survived was an absolute miracle. He says, but the Tesla vehicle didn't catch fire. To see the extent of the damage, I thought it was sure going to catch fire after such a violent impact, but nothing. I agree. I think that there were a number of miracles there, but let's put this back in perspective. There was a fire here in Phoenix last Friday. Mm-hmm. Channel 12 News called us up and wanted some sound bites from us regarding the frequency of electric vehicle fires. And I don't think they ended up using my sound bites because no one came to me and said, I saw you on TV.
Okay.
We went to bed, so I didn't watch it. But anyway, my point to them was, this is highly infrequent. There are infinitely more internal combustion engine fires than electric vehicle auto fires. And the trick is to put lots of water on it. So maybe this thing going into the water is what helped extinguish it. We don't know, but as I said, there were a lot of miracles regarding this particular accident.
Oh, most definitely. And I know the accident that occurred over in the eastern metro area in Scottsdale, it was an accident, and it did compromise the battery pack. Those battery packs are not easy to compromise. Mm-hmm. To compromise them, get them to a point where the lithium batteries go into their own thermal runaway and catch fire is extremely difficult to do, and is a safety feature in not just Tesla, but in just about all the vehicles. They take safety very seriously.
And from what I saw of the aerial helicopter pictures around this accident, there was a lot of foam on the car. And the suggestion with a lithium-ion fire is to continuously douse it with water. What made this unusual was they thought they had the fire out. They then towed it up on a tow truck. It was traveling down Scottsdale Road in a very busy intersection and caught fire again while on the tow truck, which basically shut down a major intersection in Scottsdale. And of course, that made headlines. That made national news.
Of course, and unfortunately, the tow truck was lost. Nolvar53 has responded as well. It says, my room is full of my wife's Revlon products.
There you go. All right, TikTok, Jason DeFoss from Canada. Morning, friends watching from Canada. There you go.
Good morning, Jason. Welcome back.
Yeah. So we've got a bunch of questions here. Let me go into one other news item. We were talking about ridiculous speeds, right, and how the records keep getting broken. This one is from Supercar Blondie post, and she seems to be branching out these days. It used to be that she would get into a over-the-top hypercar and then talk about a few of the features. Nowadays, I see her doing product placement and doing news items. And my Facebook is literally very busy with Supercar Blondie posts. But here's one that she posted. This is a speedboat. It does 0 to 273 miles per hour. Now, you got to get your head around the speed. I think the Bugatti Veyron's top speed is like 254, 260 or something like that.
Yeah.
A friend of mine here in town has one. He had to fly his car to Europe on a special test track to get to top speed, and then he got a jacket that said, Bugatti top speed guy or whatever, right?
Right.
So this thing goes to 273 miles an hour, 0 to 273 in 3 seconds. Wow. That almost doesn't seem possible. Doing this, it burns 8 gallons of fuel in 3 seconds. The plumbing into that carburation system or ignition system must be massive, and it puts out 4.5 Gs in the process.
What is that going to be, like a 6-inch pipe just pouring fuel into the engine?
We have a picture, guys. Can we pop? Oh, it's already up there. There we go. It's a 10,000 horsepower drag boat, and it is 10 times faster than a Bugatti Chiron. The instant I saw this, I thought to myself, every era needs to have one pivotable end of an era type thing, and this may be it. As ICE vehicles go away, this may be the peak or the pinnacle of the ICE vehicle era.
To put this into perspective just a little bit, some of your faster roller coasters in amusement parks, in Disneyland, it's the California Screaming, or I guess it's now called the Incredicoaster. Some of the roller coasters over Magic Mountain or at Cedar Hills in Iowa, they will have these takeoff roller coasters. They accelerate very quickly to get up to speed. No longer is it the chain.
Right, clink, 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 clink. Yeah, you're going up there.
0 to 60 on the Incredicoaster takes about 2 seconds.
Amazing. Okay.
So this is roughly 8 times faster than that.
Yeah. 0 to 60 in 2 seconds. Well, we've got a Tesla Model S Plaid there.
Yeah.
Amazing. All right. So a lot of questions coming in. TikTok, Kyle Joseph. Good morning. Welcome back. What would you say is the most common problem that Tesla come in for, and can that problem be stopped? Well, to put it in perspective, we have new Teslas, the ones that are coming off of the production floor. We don't see those. They're under warranty, and anybody having a problem gets free service, free repairs, free parts, free everything at the Tesla service centers for up to 8 years. What we see are the original 2012 through 2014 vehicles that are out of warranty. The most common problems we see on a Tesla Model S are door handles. Every day, I think we've got a door handle repair in there of some type. Window regulators is another one. There's a little part in there, it's a ferrule that's plastic that tends to break, and we've developed a billet aluminum replacement for that increases the life tremendously. And then there are other issues from suspension, tires, sometimes battery issues. But I would say that in the order I presented them, those are probably the highest priority items that Tesla's come in for.
Sounds about right.
On the Roadster side of things, brick Roadsters, dead Roadsters, electronics problems. Remember, these cars are now going on 15 years. They came out in 2008. And there are a lot of issues that are now beginning to manifest due to aging. In the electronics, you have components that wear out. It's kind of like an engine. You have rings, pistons, bearings that wear as time goes by. In the electronics world, it's about components and engineering problems. The brick batteries, meaning that the batteries come in dead, we can repair those. which is something Tesla does not do at the service center level. So we get a number of Roadsters that come in every month from various parts of the country with problems like that. And then we also have electronics shipped to us, especially if they're out of the country. That power electronics module, which is a large 3-phase inverter, is full of wear item electronics that we not only replace, but then take care of engineering problems. So TikTok, Mr. Big 5556, are we saving the planet? Well, we certainly hope so.
I certainly hope so. I think that we are moving toward a greener planet. In spite of what some of the naysayers may say, the revolution has definitely started. It's going to go in fits and starts. It's not always going to be smooth. And there are going to be a lot of people who resist the change because they tend to resist change. The electric vehicle is going to be one of the things that helps build a better planet for our kids and grandkids.
So TikTok, Randy Green, do you think they'll put stalks back on the Model S and X? He's talking about the, the wiper blades and the turn signal stalks. He said, I drove one and it's dangerous without them. I guess it depends on what you're used to. We find that Tesla listens to their customers, and they will make changes based on what is popular. So if enough people request this, yes, I think they will, or they offer 2 options, stalkless and stalk.
Right, just like they used to offer options for automatic or manual transmissions.
Looks like TikTok, Bill Wood, welcome back, Bill. He said he put a 50 amp charging station in for $250. That's a pretty good price. With chargers being installed at your home, there are a number of variables. I see questions all the time on Facebook or other forums. Does anybody know an electrician, and how much would it cost to put in a level 2 charger? No electrician in their right mind is going to quote you a flat rate price before they come and look at your facility. The issues are, do you have enough breaker space? If you don't, you need to have a breaker or the entire panel replaced and some more service entries, and that gets really expensive. What is the distance from the charging station to the breaker panel? How many obstructions are there? Do they have to trench and go underground? Can they go through the walls? Is there enough clearance? So you have a number of potentially costly issues. A $250 installation sounds to me like the breaker panel was on the other side of the wall, and all that customer had to do was pop in a box with an outlet and punch through the wall and get into the breaker panel, and there was enough breaker space or empty breaker space where they were able to put in a new breaker and hook up that level 2 charger.
Definitely was a good price, and I'm glad that you're able to get that. Some people are able to get their chargers in for less. More typical prices that I've heard, however, run anywhere from $1,000 to $2,000.
Yeah, that's a good middle of the road average. TikTok, Kyle Joseph. Welcome back, Kyle. Question is, would your shop be doing service on semi-trucks and Cybertrucks when released? Not when released, because again, it's under warranty. When they come off warranty, absolutely. We will have to make infrastructure changes, which is, by the way, one of the indications we have that Tesla is quite serious about the Cybertruck now, because the word we get from service centers is they are installing heavier lifts now in anticipation of the Cybertrucks showing up for service.
Ken Kamethi, 175 from TikTok, has sent a rose, or that's a small gift to us. Thank you very much for that gift, Ken.
Much appreciated. TikTok, user, and he's got about 20 numbers after that, so I'll just say user with 20 numbers. His question is, how many Roadsters were made? Well, there were 2,400 made. 2,412, I think, is the precise number, but remember, some of these went into crash testing and didn't survive. So 2,412. If you're interested to see how many are left, we started a Tesla Roadster census program on our website, grubermotors.com, and we've had wonderful participation from Roadster owners sending us their information. We're currently accounting for 1,550 with VINs and about 500 that we know exist but don't have VINs for yet. So we're looking at about 2,000, which isn't bad considering 2,400 were made, and a number of them during the early days weren't considered valuable enough to restore, and if they went to auction or they were totaled, some of them actually got crushed. We started buying Tesla Roadsters at auctions, all that we could actually, around 2015 or so, and we were buying them for parts cars or some to restore.
It was not uncommon then to buy a Roadster that was in good working condition other than a bad battery pack for around $10,000 or a little bit less.
Mm-hmm. The current price of Roadsters, by the way, is down about 20-30%. A year ago this time, the average price for a non-pedigreed Roadster was about $120,000 to $130,000. And right now it's about 90 to 100, but if it's pedigreed, what I mean by that is low VIN numbers, low mileage, celebrity owned, all bets are off. The highest one that sold was actually February of last year on our Roadster matchmaking site, again on our website, grubermotors.com. And if you want to see prices and see what's available for sale, we have over 50 of them now, I think, out there between sold and what's for sale. So this particular one last year broke all the records. It sold for $295,000. It was a very low VIN, and it had 894 miles on the odometer.
Ghost from TikTok, thank you for the gifts that you sent, Ghost. He asks, hey guys, are you out of Arizona? Short answer, yes we are.
Right here in Phoenix, Arizona. By the way, those of you that visit Arizona, stop by and take a tour of our service center. We get at least one tour per day these days. And we also have some history there. You'll see a T0 mounted on our tribute wall with some videos showing what the car did and what it looked like and where it was produced.
On YouTube, Warren Raven asks, or mentions actually, Tony, Seba on YouTube shows how in the next decade we can reduce 90% of our emissions.
Interesting, okay. We'll have to look that up.
We definitely will.
Jason Gutierrez on TikTok. I have a 2015 Model S P85D. Is there any way to upgrade to a long-range battery? Yes. We have a video on that, and it's on our YouTube channel, and it's called a Tesla battery upgrade, I think is the name of it. It'll go into great detail what battery you can put in there, but the long and short of it is a 90 kW battery is the largest that you can go in that car because of suspension changes needing to be made if you had a 100 kW, timing issues with airbag deployment, and you probably will have a difficult time getting a service center to work on your car if you have a backyard mechanic shoehorn something larger than a 90 kW battery into that P85D.
Mark Montgomery on TikTok asks us, what's with the shades? I think this is the second sunglasses question we've had today, actually.
It's only two so far. We usually get more than that. This time I'll answer it with, have you ever watched the Blues Brothers movies? All right, so I've got a news item here. Ralph Nader. Some of you may not know who that is, and if you're as old as I am, you probably know exactly who that is. Ralph Nader, in the 60s, claimed that the GM Chevrolet Corvair was the most dangerous automobile on the road, and because of his credibility, and consumers found him to be extraordinarily credible, that car was basically pulled off the road by GM, and it probably killed an entire generation of automotive innovation. What GM tried to do with the Corvair was do something different. They put the motor in the back of the car rather than into the front of the car. There were some suspension changes. It was a little, almost a sports car, kind of like the Miata. And anyway, a rear engine car that finally ended up dying because of Ralph Nader's assertion that this was an unsafe car. There were issues during accidents, and I won't go into all of the details, but most recently, Ralph Nader is back in the news. And on Twitter, he accused Elon Musk of taking the taxpayers to the cleaner. And specifically, what he said was, that Musk started Tesla with a huge U.S. government welfare grant. Well, it's just completely inconsistent with any historical footnotes regarding Tesla. Elon pumped his own money into Tesla. And it wasn't until years later that they took or accepted a federal grant, which was, let me get the year here for you. It was about just under $500,000 in 2013. Tesla actually paid this loan back. Car companies weren't used to doing that. GM kept it and went bankrupt.
Yes.
Some other car companies got loans like this. But Elon and company had another 5 years that they could have kept the money, but they didn't like the regulators climbing all over their company, and they said, no, we can pay this back. We have enough profits. Let's get rid of this debt. So the response from Elon to Ralph Nader was, let me get this here. He basically said, you're lying. Let me find it here. Here we go. Musk responded with, Ralph Nader, you are lying. Shame on you. I personally provided almost all of Tesla funding based on my proceeds from PayPal. Now, if you remember Elon's early stint with wealth was he started PayPal. And when eBay bought PayPal for $1.5 billion in 2002, Elon personally got $175 million. With that money, he reinvested. He started SpaceX. He funded Tesla in the early days. He became the largest shareholder in Tesla after making a $6.5 million investment in 2004. And then in 2008, he took over as CEO. He says, in late 2008, now I remember 2008 was when the planet was facing the worst financial crisis that, at least in our history, where companies were going out of business left and right, things were caving in, banks were looking like they were going to foreclose. In late 2008, Elon gave Tesla the last money he had. And he had a tough decision to make because he wanted to keep SpaceX alive and he wanted to keep Tesla alive. And he says, we closed that funding round at 6 p.m. on Christmas Eve in 2008. If he had not funded Tesla further, it would have gone bankrupt 2 days after Christmas. He gave his last money thinking Tesla would probably still die and not thinking it would be lucrative. So anyway, we have no idea why Ralph Nader made this statement, and he's apparently misinformed because the facts indicate something completely different. In fact, his actual quote on Twitter is, he's talking about Elon, he has taken taxpayers to the cleaners for his factories and for Starlink. He is a gigantic corporate welfare king masquerading as a capitalist businessman. And the reason we know this wasn't some bot, there was a -R after the tweet, which usually indicates that it was Ralph Nader himself that wrote this and not a member of his staff. So this may go down in history as one of the biggest misstatements in EV history.
It really may. And this is not Nader's first attack against Tesla. In August of last year, Ralph Nader went to the NHTSA and claiming that the full self-driving had to be completely recalled and removed from all Tesla vehicles because it was inherently unsafe. Elon Musk actually mentioned as early as 2016 in his Master Plan 2 about how he provided all of the funding for Tesla in the early days. And if you go back to 2008, that's where the internet is such a wonderful thing. You can go back and look up 2008 articles to talk about Tesla on the brink of bankruptcy. Tesla days away from bankrupt. Will Tesla make this payroll? Some things like that. And Elon is flatly saying, yeah, that's the case. Elon's approach is also very different from what GM did back in the late 1960s with the Corvair. GM simply tried to discredit Ralph Nader. They attacked his character, they attacked him personally, and in so doing, they made Ralph Nader who he is. Elon simply brings out the facts of what it is that he has said in the past. He personally invested his money. He's calling Ralph out as a liar. and has shown that that is true. I went and looked on the master plan too as well, and sure enough, in 2016 it says I invested the last of my money into Tesla, and I'm the one that got it funded and going.
Yeah. So Ralph is not the first prominent, popular individual that needs to take a good hard look at his fact checkers and his script writers.
Absolutely.
Looks like we got some more questions. Instagram, Mr. Scorebot. Hello from Ukraine. There we go. Other part of the world. He says, we are fans of you. You get same hemp for inspiration. You are the best. Well, thank you. And we sincerely hope in this country, all of us, that the craziness that's going on in your country will soon subside. Our heart goes out to you.
Absolutely. On YouTube, My Melt asks, think of the tremendous number of jobs that result from Elon's efforts. How many jobs has Nader produced?
Good point.
That's a great point. Keep the questions coming, please. And not only here on YouTube or on TikTok or Instagram, come listen to us on Spotify as well. You'll be able to see us. The show gets uploaded, Jesse, the same day on Spotify. Is that correct?
That is correct. We have the same day.
Okay.
Be a couple hours after this.
So tomorrow, the Tesla is having their Investor Day at 2 p.m., I think, Mountain Standard Time. And Mark and I plan to have a big screen actually airing this, and then provide some commentary and some post-Investor Day commentary. So feel free to join us. We'll go live like we did here. Mm-hmm. And in the meantime, though, there's some predictions regarding what will be talked about at this Investor Day. And I thought it's a good time for us to segue into that.
By all means. It's the predictions they're wild. There are all kinds of predictions that are going on out there. I've thought the best way to look at the predictions and give some of our take on it is to start off with what's been going on in the past with the master plans, because these master plans, of which Master Plan 3 is coming out tomorrow, are all interrelated. Master Plan 1, for example, Elon Musk starts out by saying, it is absolutely idiotic for anybody, to start an automotive company. And to start an electric vehicle company is idiocy squared. And so that was his plan. The first part of the master plan was to start with a low volume, high value, or expensive vehicle. That's the Tesla Roadster. From there, they were going to go to a medium volume, still luxury, but a lower price vehicle. That's the Model S. And after that, with the funding that you get from those two vehicles, make a high volume, affordable vehicle that the masses can buy. That's the Model 3 and the Model Y. Finally, he mentioned in the first master plan, the first rumblings of solar. The overall idea, and this theme runs through all of the master plans, is to be able to create a better, sustainable green energy future for Earth. Master Plan Part 2, which came out in 2016, accelerate the advent of sustainable energy, integrating energy and storage. This is the Tesla Powerwall. This was the purchase of Solar City. That purchase has been praised and criticized for years now. Expanding to cover all major forms of transport. In addition to the automobiles, having some sort of a pickup truck, having some sort of a semi, which the Tesla Semi is now out, having some sort of mass transportation. That part has not yet been achieved. Looking at autonomy, hopefully having autonomy ready. In 2016, he thought by 2024 it would be completely done. It's still in progress. Full self-driving has not gone as quickly as they thought it would, but it has been moving forward. I found it very notable in Master Plan 2 that Elon mentions that a cheaper vehicle than a Model 3 is probably not going to be necessary in the future. That's something to remember, as there's been a lot of speculation on this newest master plan about Tesla putting out a Model 2 or another even cheaper vehicle than the Model 3. So Master Plan 3 is coming out tomorrow. There's been a lot written about it. Here's some of my speculation, and it truly is just my own thoughts. Previous master plans don't have a 50% per year growth target. I know Elon Musk and Tesla has mentioned in the past of growth targets of 50%. Famously, in 2022, they talked about 50% growth, and they didn't quite make it. They hit 47%, and they got absolutely crushed in the investor marketplace as a result. But none of these master plans mention growth of that sort. The master plans are much stronger on the more nebulous goal of a brighter, greener energy future for ourselves and for future generations. I do think that they're going to talk about manufacturing capabilities, however, possibly new factories, especially when it comes to battery manufacturing for the vehicles, as well as expanded factories for things like the Cybertruck and for the Tesla Semi. Is it possible that they decide that they're going to come out with a Model 2 or something similar to that? Yeah, it's definitely possible. The United States, of course, is one of the wealthiest nations in the world, and Elon Musk's goal is not just to electrify America, it's to have green energy and electrification across the world. There are some people that are speculating that this is going to require a capital raise. Basically, Elon saying, hey, we're going to call out another series of stock for people to buy so we can raise more capital. Personally, I'd take more of a wait and see on that. I know some of the predictions out there are that he's going to call for more funding, believing that there's simply not going to be enough cash in the bucket to fund all of the new gigafactories and manufacturing facilities and stuff that are going on. My take, well, you know, the Model Y and the Model 3 are 3 months behind on production again after all the orders that came in after the first of the year. Many of those orders came in after the price was increased once again back up to its original levels from 2022. That price decrease that occurred at the end of the year and made all kinds of press only lasted for about 3 weeks. I do think that tomorrow's Investor Day is going to outline a lot of growth toward a sustainable green energy future. I do think that there's going to be more mention of things like solar and how it can integrate with the grid overall. And I actually do think that more infrastructure is going to be mentioned. There's been rumblings in the press about Tesla opening up its charging network to other companies, to other car manufacturers. I think that fits in line with the goals of what we've seen in the past master plans. So those are some of my predictions. I'm really looking forward to seeing what happens at the Investor Day tomorrow and being able to give live reaction with you.
Very cool. You know, one of the things that I did, the term gigafactory gets tossed around quite a bit. What does it mean? I don't remember hearing that term in the last century, for example. Well, it turns out that the term gigafactory was coined by Elon Musk back in 2013. But why is it called a gigafactory? Well, the name gigafactory can be split into obviously factory, but the portion about giga is a unit of measurement representing billions. Initially, Tesla intended to use the term gigafactory solely for its battery production facilities. And each would make so many battery packs that a collective energy capacity of those units would equal billions, hence giga, of watt hours per year. The first one opened in Story County, Nevada, Gigafactory, Nevada in 2016, if you recall. Then came Gigafactory, Texas in April of 2022. Now here's a statistic that just blew me away. Gigafactory, Texas has over 10 million square feet of commercial floor space. That's around 100 football fields.
Wow.
It makes it the second largest building by volume in the world. So anyway, Tesla is definitely making headlines continuously in a number of categories. Let me give you another one. Stock. If you remember, the stock was down around 107, 108 about a month or so ago, and we're all wondering, oh my God, what's happening? You know, is the world coming to an end? Today it's over 200 again, and a Canada pension plan just bought 600,000 shares of Tesla and got rid of their Apple shares.
Yes.
So that tells you something. But at this point, you know, I can't imagine that Tesla doesn't have a bright future. And by the way, we're not financial advisors. Take it with a grain of salt. We're just reporting the news here.
That's right. You know, for that Canada pension plan, that was so intriguing to me, being the numbers guy. I took a little bit of a look at it too. This is the largest pension in the country that bought the Tesla stock. They did sell about 85% of their Apple holdings. Not only did they buy Tesla, they went in on electric vehicles in general. They also bought a lot of NIO stock and a lot of the Li Auto, Chinese automaker stock.
NIO, okay.
So NIO and Li.
I did want to chime in on that
Yes.
that piece really quick. So before working here at Gruber, I spent 5 years working at Vanguard, which is one of the major investment firms, one of the biggest in the world. I would be hard pressed to find a mutual fund that didn't have Tesla in it, and this was even back in 2016 to 2020, or no, 2015 to 2020. When I was looking through 401k plans, I would just go and look and see what investments they had, and I would educate myself on what the different mutual funds had within them, whether it was a growth fund or a value fund, large cap fund, pretty much anything that was, or even just like an S&P 500, right? All of them had Tesla in the top 10 for the most part.
Amazing.
And it's just hard, you'd be hard pressed to find an investment fund without it right now.
Thank you, Richard.
That's great.
Yeah,
that's great insight, Richard, because for the Canada Pension Fund, there's 600,000 shares that they bought, and it doesn't really specify. It was over the last quarter. They reported it, their last quarter of purchases, as part of their public filings for required legal disclosures, and it raised its stake to about 1 million shares of Tesla that this particular fund owns. It looks like it's possible, since they didn't specify a time frame, that they could have bought the dip. They found that Apple was valued high. These auto stocks were valued way low. We just talked about how Tesla was all the way down to 108 and has come back to above 200.
And I love this analogy. Why did all the rest of them go down as well? Well, it's kind of like the tide. All the boats sink and all the boats rises.
That's right. That's right. Jiminy Stack on Facebook asks a question, or gives us a good comment. He says, good clarification on the Elon funding of Tesla and SpaceX. Thank you, Jim.
Jim, by the way, is local. He's one of our EV godfathers here in Arizona. Welcome back, Jim. Good to see you. YouTube, My Melt. He says, I hope TSLA, Tesla, the stock symbol, comes out with some home HVAC with hyperfiltration. You know, there's another school of thought that says, you know, they have branched out into so many markets. Let's let them stay focused and just get the stuff out that they need to. But you're right. It's most of the things they touch end up being done well.
Yes.
I think, for me at least, the most exciting thing that they're involved in is this robotics and AI thing. That has a lot of intrigue and mystery surrounding it, and they'll do well with that.
Just so you know, Pete, we're at 58 minutes.
58 minutes, okay.
You know, continuing on that AI thread for just a second, there is so much that Tesla is invested in that AI. I completely believe that full self-driving and the AI investment that they've made is going to be a big part of the call tomorrow.
It looks like from Facebook, Jim again says he went to the Sparks, Nevada Gigafactory grand opening. They were ready to start the 2170 cell production. They also had a prototype Model 3 there, and he says they've made amazing progress since then. Absolutely.
Absolutely. Van Goat Wagon gives us a comment. He says, I love me some Tesla stock. I got in early on Lowe's stock and happy that I did. I agree, definitely.
I think I bought my first Tesla shares after I got my Roadster in 2014 for around $32. And we were all excited when it went to 50. Van Goat Wagon from TikTok, welcome. Any new news on the Cybertruck? You know, we've been watching social media just like the rest of you, and they seem to be popping up. There's one now at this new Tesla headquarters that took over the old HP building in Silicon Valley. Nothing indicates at this point that there are any delays. The production processes are being nailed down, and we're hearing that the ramp up is going to continue, and Q3 and 4 of this year is going to be a lot of production ramping with releases in 2024, early 2024. And remember, the service centers are making the financial investment in changing their lifts, or at least some of them, to accommodate the Cybertruck. They wouldn't be doing that unless something was imminent.
From YouTube, Bill Wood reaching out again to us mentions that branching out in different categories worked well for GE. Oh, Bill, I couldn't agree more.
Good point.
That is an excellent point, and thank you for making that.
All right.
Real quick here, Pete, I'm going to pull up a picture for you guys just on more of the Tesla progress, because we talked about the German Gigafactory in our last episode, and we're talking about progress that Tesla's made. So let me pull this up.
Are you going to put yourself on camera?
No, I'm going to put this on camera. See, it says 4,000 Model Ys were built at Giga Berlin this week.
In 1 week?
Yeah.
Amazing.
So they're definitely ramping up and scaling up over there.
Yeah. We've not heard whether they got the parking lot over or a covered parking issue straightened out. Remember, there was an issue of putting the pylons down into the dirt 3 feet or a meter, and potential groundwater contamination. So I'm glad that's not in the news anymore. Maybe it resolved itself.
I'm hoping that it did. 4,000 cars in a week in one factory is actually very, very impressive. You know, Tesla does have capacity today of building nearly 2 million cars a year in their factories. I'm looking forward to seeing what the growth is. And the Shanghai factory is not even running at full capacity yet.
I think another near-term goal was to get to 6 million per year, and that's probably one of the things that Elon's going to talk about tomorrow, is the path to get them to that kind of volume.
I think so.
So we invite you to join us. Definitely watch Investor Day if you're interested in EVs, Tesla, and alternative energy. And we will be reporting. And then Thursday we'll have our synopsis. And unless there are any final questions, it looks like we're in a position where we could wrap up this podcast.
One last comment that we have is from Soul to Stone. Morning, gents. Good morning, Soul to Stone. With that, though, I think we will wrap things up. Thank you again so much for the time, and we look forward to talking to you again tomorrow.
See you soon.